What's up guys, welcome back to Destiny Updates. Today's update is just going to round up a bunch of miscellaneous info into one bigger update, so let's get right into it. Game Informer's April edition had a write-up on Destiny. Now a lot of it was stuff we already knew, however there is a bunch of new information as well, so let's go over that. They said systems like the limitations of carrying only 2 weapons and rechargeable health both begun with Halo. For Destiny, Bungie is taking a cue from other shooters for a small but substantial change to its gunplay. It appears that players will be pulling up the iron sights. Now I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that, but it basically sounds like Bungie will be taking elements from other shooters and putting them into Destiny. So it's not just going to be like Halo. Now this next thing is a bit of an adventure that happened with 2 players while playing Destiny. It sounds like the same story we heard before, where 2 players raided a sort of stronghold on Mars. However, it seems like we get a bit more details now, so I'll go over it again. It starts out, 2 Guardians meet in the city and decide to head up to a location on Mars called the Dust Palace. So now we already know the name of a sort of dungeon or stronghold on Mars. Now we'll skip ahead a bit to where they were already pretty much complete with the dungeon, since the rest of this was already talked about in a previous video. And it says, after collecting a new weapon, which Destiny writer and design director Joseph Staten describes as a gun that glows like a starlight when I prime its magazine. So that sounds interesting because it shows a lot of weapon variety and detail. Moving on, it says the players are given the option to part ways or stick together and head back to Earth. It goes on to say that by the time they arrive home, the sun has set and darkness shrouds the city. So that's a great example of the dynamic day and night cycle of the game. Moving on, they said Destiny runs on a brand new Bungie created engine that required so much work and problem solving that senior graphic designer Heo Chen jokes it turned his hair gray. So there's further confirmation that the Destiny engine is brand new and that it's Bungie created. Going on, it says Destiny may take place after a major global disaster, but everything from the concept art to the soundtrack represents a hopeful world where humans are doing more than surviving. They are fighting for the future. So even though Destiny takes place in a post-apocalyptic universe, everything still seems bright and hopeful. Now regarding a PC version, Bungie says it makes console shooters, so playing on anything other than a controller seems unlikely. Now that seems to conflict with what we previously heard from Eurogamer, where Bungie's COO Pete Parsons said that they'd love to be on PC and to stay tuned. Personally, I'd love to see Destiny on PC, and it seems like a no-brainer to me, but we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on, it says that the Destiny app for iOS allows players to send and accept invitations to play, as well as customize their Guardians. So now we know of 2 uses for the Destiny app. It's kinda cool you'll be able to customize your Guardians using it. However, I'm not sure exactly how game invites would work through that, but it'll be interesting to see. Now we've only heard about an iOS app so far, however I'm sure they'll be making an Android app as well, and if they don't, it'll be quite one-sided and a lot of us won't be able to access the features. Continuing on, it says Destiny has a plethora of different enemies, all with distinct looks, motivations, and weapons. The list of enemy types includes creatures called Hellmouth, which I have no idea what they are, your guess is as good as mine, War Rhinos, Spider Pirates, which are the Fallen, Cabal, Evil Space Zombies, which we now speculate might be called the Hive, and perhaps most intriguing, time-traveling robots, which is the Vex. Now when it said War Rhinos, I instantly thought of the Cabal, however the Cabal are mentioned just after that, so I'm not sure what they could be. Perhaps they're a different class of Cabal? Or maybe a different species entirely, I'm not really sure. And the last thing in the article that seemed worth mentioning was, Bungie has yet to showcase Destiny's gameplay, but it has established an interesting world and laid the foundations for an expansive narrative. The studio wants to show it can add more to its legacy than Master Chief, and they're going all in on Destiny. Jason Jones, co-founder of Bungie and project director of Destiny, says, "We hope you'll agree. It's really crazy." So that's it for what I found interesting in the Game Informer article. Once again, that comes from Game Informer's April edition. Moving on to some other news, when announcing Destiny at the PlayStation 4 press conference almost a month ago, they showed a bunch of new concept art around the stage as they were talking. Now the quality on these images is definitely not the best, as they're just pictures of the screens around the stage, but it's definitely still worth looking at. The first image here shows some kind of a structure on another planet. It looks like it could be some sort of watchtower or something, but I'm not really sure. Now I think this planet could be Mercury. You can see in the background what must be the sun, and it looks absolutely massive, so this planet must be really close to it. And since Mercury is the closest planet to the sun in our solar system, I would think that's probably what it is. Moving on, here's another view of the wall that surrounds the last city. We've seen this multiple times before, but here's another view of it. Now this next one here appears to be another example of the Traveler's magical powers being used by a Guardian against some space zombies. So that's definitely cool to see. Now another thing, in the background behind the space zombie he's shooting, we can see another creature, which looks much larger and has a different form, possibly indicating different forms of space zombie, much like the Flood in Halo. Moving on, we can see what looks like a Guardian stealthily moving towards a building from some sort of forested area. This could be further evidence of stealth being a factor in the game, which the Hunter class is believed to specialize in. Now in this next one here, we can see a Guardian aiming a gun at a Fallen or Spider Pirate. We can see him quad-wielding there, and he definitely looks like quite a fearsome foe. In the final image here, we can see what looks like more of the Fallen. However, on the left you can see one that looks quite different. His clothing looks quite unique, and from the way he's standing, it looks like he could be giving out orders, possibly indicating he's some sort of high-ranking figure or leader, or maybe he's just an officer. Moving on to the next story, it's been revealed that Bungie will be using a tool called Umbra to power Destiny's world creation and rendering. Now what this tool seems to do is when you're in-game, it'll automatically figure out what graphical elements you can see and what's hidden behind other objects. So the game engine will only render things you can actually see and not waste resources on things that are hidden. Normally that all has to be done manually, but with this tool it's all automatic, which frees up time that can be spent working on other important aspects of the game. Now the last story for today comes from the official Xbox magazine, and it's just a short article discussing why Bungie chose Sci-Fi-Fantasy over other genres. OXM says the choice of a science fiction setting seems an obvious one, given the studio's pedigree, but according to writer and design director Joseph Staten, it took Bungie years to nail down. "We thought of a good handful of other genres as well," said Staten. "We've had a pretty long pre-production period, and we've explored everything from straight-up fantasy, to something a little bit more modern, to many other things as well. Ultimately, we gravitated towards this mix of science fiction and fantasy because it gave us this freedom. You saw small things like the prevalence of cloth in the game. A lot of characters have capes or cloaks, and the combatants have cloth as well. Fantasy brings us this texture we can wrap around sci-fi, which is really appealing. Especially if you're an artist who's just been stuck making straight-up space armor for 10 years. A bit of cloth is very refreshing." They went on to say, "Having decided on a broad theme, Bungie spent a while thrashing around precise ramifications. Technical director Chris Butcher called it mythic science fiction, and the author of the article agrees that he thinks that's a great way to think about it." Anyways, that's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video, giving it a like is very much appreciated. It really helps me out. Also, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading them and I reply to every single one. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest Destiny news. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.